you. So just a bit about the species. The Atlantic bluefin tuna is the world's largest tuna species. There's this western stock and the eastern stock. So you have the eastern stock, which mainly spawns in the Mediterranean, and then you have the western stock, which mainly spawns in the Mexico Gulf. And then, they travel all around the northern Atlantic. And they're quite fast swimmers, very fast swimmers. And what many people don't know, there was a significant fishery in Norway in the 50s and 60s. And Norway actually took the largest catches then, up to 15,000 tons a year. And then they were gone for many, many years. But in 2012, we had the first observations. And then nowadays, there's both a commercial and a recreational fishery. And I just continue where I stopped last year, 3 years ago in Melbourne. So this is how we fish for them. This is the tagging project. We trawl for them with spreader bars using 2 rods. And we develop a fishing method to tag them. So together with the recreational fishers, we try to catch them as efficient as possible, and in terms of welfare, also as least harmful as possible. So we're hooking a fish, we are following it immediately with a boat, and we are getting straight on the fish. And then, we're just stopping the boat once we are over the fish, and then start pulling in, and the fish pretty much comes towards us. So instead of driving away from the fish, fighting it for a long time, you see the boat is stopped, and we're just pulling the fish on the wino leader towards us, and then we hook it. They are around 250 to 400 kilos, and our average fighting time is around 15 minutes on those. We pull them on board, and then we do, like this one was 400 kilos. I mean, we pulled them on board here to do the tagging, to do onboard tagging. And then I'm just showing some of the tagging results. So we did this tagging in Norway, and then after they leave the Norwegian coast, they go into the mid-Atlantic, almost to Canada, where they feed in the Newfoundland basin, many of them during winter. And then in spring, they return eastwards, and then they would spread. Some go to the Canary Islands. And then in May, June, most of them go into the Mediterranean to spawn. And they're spawning, they meet again, and then they all, like our fish, go back to Norway and spend late summer and autumn there before the whole thing continues. But then we thought, okay, now we know everything about the large-scale behavior. We need to look into small-scale behavior. Why do we reach these? Because when you look at, there's a significant recreational fishery and commercial fishery now, and the fighting times range from, as I said, like 8 to 10 minutes, and they can be up to 6-7 hours. So we wanted to see what's happening on the hook. So we got a new project where we had these spreader bars. That's pretty much the only type of lure we are using to catch them on rod and line. And we put a camera, Otto sitting in the room, he developed some kind of magic to actually put a camera in front of the spreader bar. And then we also used an accelerometer tag on the hook to look at acceleration and movement of the head during the fight. So I'm going to show you how this looks once we get the bite. So now you saw everything which happened over water, and now you see underwater. So to the upper left, you see the fish. Just try to focus on the different picture while I'm talking. Upper left, you see the bite. So the fish is rushing, the spreader bar is breaking away. It's just folding up. And then you see here, this is just 30 seconds into the fight. It's usually just going down. And then what we see, the fish often goes up again and then returns to the school. So the moment when we start following the fish without putting much pressure on it, just trying to see where it goes and follow it, often the fish just return to their school and start just normal tail movements. And then what we then see is that we come over the fish and then kind of surprise it and then get it up. And it's coming up in circles without a lot of fight, actually. So what do we see? When we looked at the videos, we saw, okay, we have a really nice view of the tail. and the tail beat. And we wanted to say something about welfare and what can be improved in other, like capture boats. And but now to describe the welfare of our fish, as a first step, we looked at tail beat, which can be linked to exhaustion and stuff. So based on the camera, we could see that in the initial phase, fish had a tail beat of up to 6 hertz, which then dropped down. And that was similar for all fish. But then we had these holes in our data. And that's when the fish, when the camera went dark, when they went down, we didn't see anything. So then we looked at the data from the tag, the hook tag, and you saw all these kinds of like lots of movements. But then when zooming into the data, and you would see these oscillations. And that was linked to, or we thought was linked to tail beat. And then when doing some analysis magic again, we got to extract all the tail beats from the hook tags. And then we could lay those over. Those are the hertz based on the tags, and this is based on the camera estimations when we had camera data. And you saw that there was a very strong correlation. So then by doing that, we could actually fill the gaps and then got a complete 5 data set for those, for all of those fish. And then to relate this, again, as I said in the beginning, we had these quite extreme values, and then those leveled out. To relate this to welfare and exhaustion of the fish, we transformed those tail beat frequencies to actual swimming speed. In the initial phase, where the fish are just hooked and going down, they would be up to 10 meters per second. And then this goes down and flattens out. And that's what you saw in the videos. That's when they are going with the school, and then also in the initial phase when they are restrained. So what does that mean to actual physiology of the fish? We looked at different literature. A sustainable speed for tuna would be in the green area. So that's how we defined the swimming when the fish is not using much energy. But then you also have speeds which are below the threshold. That's when the fish is restrained. A tuna needs to swim to ventilate. And if you restrain it too much, it can't breathe. So you don't want to come like at speeds where it's just not able to swim. So when you, for example, have a tail wrap, we had one, the tuna will just die pretty fast because it's just not able to breathe. So you saw that in some cases the fish was too restrained before it started swimming again. So that's where you don't want to be. And where you also don't want to be for a long time is these extreme swimming speeds, because then, of course, they're building up lactate and using lots of energy to keep up those speeds. So when we summed up those data, we got those for those fish that, on average, our fish on the tagging boat, they are 80% of the time, they are actually on sustainable speeds. And then they have some areas where they fall out of those. And that's also, linked to the tagging results where we have pretty high survival, and also the post-release behavior, which looked pretty good. That's good. But then the next step now we have developed this method is to look at the real fishery. Like how's that for the 6-hour fish? Are those 6-hour fish, most of the time, are they in the green zone, or are they actually swimming everywhere? We don't really know. So now we are going a step further, and that's a pretty big project which we will have for the next 3 to 4 years. It's called Well Tuna, where we do like all kinds of things. We not just tag the fish, now we're also killing it to look at, we're linking things, because there is this commercial fishery, rod and line fishery, where we want to achieve, or they want to achieve, the best possible meat quality, which is often linked to best possible animal welfare. So we are taking blood samples of the fish. We are doing conductivity measures in the meat over time, and also different practices like towing the fish for some time. I know this is practice done in the US and Canada, where you tow the fish for some time after the catch. But we haven't really found any scientific results showing that towing is good or bad for the fish. So one theory is that lactate is getting metabolized during towing. Others say, or argue, that this is just inflicting additional stress to the fish. And then one big step now is to extend all this to the commercial and recreation, to the real fishery. So we are distributing those tags both to recreational fishermen and to commercial fishermen. The thing with the camera has nothing to do in practice for them, because you need to change the battery every 40 minutes. And when you're standing in a feeding school of tuna, that's not, you don't want to take out your gear and then switch the camera. And then, so now we have kind of ground truth the method. So they are getting these tags, and they are very willing to use those tags. And yeah, as I said, the end will be then to develop science-based advice based on this, on how to capture bluefin tuna in the best possible way. Yes. And that's the project. Those were the references I used. And then if you have any questions, just contact me. Thank you.